Hi, I'm Richard and I'm one of the therapists here at Between the Sessions, and hopefully that you're in therapy with myself or the other founder of this YouTube videos, and hopefully you may find this useful. Now hopefully, fingers crossed, that you've been directed to this through my own treatment or through my colleague's treatment, and we're asking you to watch this because we want to give you a bit more of an introduction to what mindfulness is. And then hopefully after this, I will talk you through a basic exercise that will hopefully start to show you ways to put mindfulness into practice. This is a in-between session, so hopefully you're listening to this because you're in treatment, or maybe because you finished treatment and you want to recap this. So the reason why we created these YouTube videos is because we thought it'd be a good way of you guys keep it refreshing in your mind. So I want to go through the basics of mindfulness. I could talk forever about this, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to tell you some brief facts about it, and then hopefully we can go on to me talking you through an exercise that you might start to find useful. So mindfulness is often confused for a relaxation technique, and don't get me wrong, it can create this sense of calm and relaxation, but it isn't a meditation, it isn't a relaxation technique. It's more of a practical way and skillful way of practicing to train your brain to stay focused on the here and now. Now I'm hoping if you start focusing on the here and now, then hopefully it's a calm kind of place, and hopefully you can resonate with those feelings as you're experiencing them. It's not always the case, but that's the general gist behind it. So it's not about relaxing, it's more about a way of focusing your mind on the here and now. That's something you'll hear a lot during mindfulness practice, is the here and now. So where does this come from? Well, it's based on Buddhism beliefs, but psychology got a hold of this about 14 years ago, from my recollection. Research started to take off about 14 years ago, and it's been proven really effective at working with anxiety and depression, amongst other things. I like to practice it myself daily. I've been practicing mindfulness myself for 12 years now, and I find it quite useful. Even if it's the basic techniques, I find it quite useful to do. So when we talk about mindfulness, mindfulness has really kind of come under what they call the mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. So it's really about looking at how your brain wanders. If you're in treatment with me, you'll know that I draw lots of diagrams, and I'm not going to disappoint you now because I'm going to draw some diagrams during this video. So what are we talking about? Well, okay, so let me show you this, and I'll obviously put this up in a much bigger screen as we go through it. If you imagine this being the mind, not the brain, but the mind, and the mind having two kind of main components. So in this very bottom part here, we have what they call the sensing part of our mind. And this part of the mind is really useful for the here and now kind of way of being. It's being sensing, and I'm trusting in what my body's feeling. I'm very much aware of where I am right now, and it's a sense of sensing. The problem with our brains as we've evolved is we've created a much more cognitive thinking, analysing part of our minds. And that is the thinking part of the minds. So we have the sensing part of our minds, and we have the thinking side of our minds. Now in the ideal world, we stay in the sensing point, and we are sensing in the here and now, and we think from time to time when we need to be using our brains to think in that kind of thing. Human nature and the mind, unfortunately, has created this great, unfortunate habit of wandering off into thinking when we don't really need to be thinking about things. So what we have is instead of having what we call a sense-dominated way of being, in other words, I'm very much aware of I'm getting quite warm under these lights, what happens is our mind starts to wander into the thinking side of it. It's like if I was to tell you now, watch this video, and then I was to walk off and just leave it with the backdrop playing for 5-10 minutes. One, you're probably going to turn it off, or two, you're probably going to be thinking, what's going to happen next? And that's a good idea. That's a good sense showing you there that instead of being in this sensing, just saying, I'm just being aware of the backdrop, your mind goes, well, what's going to happen next? So the mind naturally wanders off into this thinking side of the part of the brain. Now that's all good and well at times, but at times it can be really unhelpful. So the idea is what we do in mindfulness is we're trying to retrain the brain to pull it back into this sensing part of our minds. I'm not sure if you can see this, but that's pretty much what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to pull you back from the wandering off and pulling it back. Now, you don't just do that once, you don't just do that twice. It's a regular practice that you need to do. So every time you find yourself wandering off in your mind, pulling it back into that sensing is a really important part of that. I like to, and I've been practicing mindfulness for quite some time, and I like to think of mindfulness a little bit like this. If any of you are in therapy with me, you'll know that I'm pretty dodgy at drawing diagrams, not the best diagrams in the world, so please bear with me on this diagram. This is supposed to be a human being. It looks more like a gingerbread man, but that's what it is. So if you imagine this, and this kind of comes from a theory called Gestalt way of working, as well as mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. And in Gestalt, we believe that we're kind of living in 3 awareness zones all the time. Awareness is a word that you're going to become very familiar with, and it's a really important part of mindfulness. So when we talk about awareness zones, in Gestalt, we have the number 1, which is our internal awareness. So I'm aware of how I'm feeling quite warm now, right now. Even inside myself, I'm feeling a little bit anxious doing this video, so I'm aware of that feeling. Then we have number 2, which is our bodily awareness. So that is how I'm physically feeling. I can feel a bit clammy under these heats, and my skin feels a little bit tacky. And then we have the 3rd awareness zone, which is the world around us. I'm aware that I'm in the study right now. I'm aware that there's a camera in front of me. In the ideal world, we're trying to be aware of all those 3 at the same time, in the here and now. So let me give you a quick example of something that I think quite useful. I'm hoping you can see this. So imagine this middle box here is the here and now. And this one here is the future. And this other one is the past. In the ideal world, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get our awareness, our internal awareness in the here and now, our bodily awareness in the here and now, and our awareness of the world where we are in the here and now. Now what tends to happen with anxiety especially, is that instead of being aware of this right now, our minds drift off into the future. I wonder what's going to happen next. I wonder if I can get that done. All those kind of anxious thoughts we can get. When we do that, our body tries to catch up with us, so our body's trying to think of this. Or even more, instead of us focusing on where we are right now, our mind is thinking about where we're going to be. So straight away, you're no longer in the here and now. The same thing happens with depression. We're often thinking about the past a lot. What I like to call regret orientation. We regret things in the past, we start to dwell upon them. Yet again, our awareness of where we are in the here and now becomes very cloudy. So you see, our mindfulness can be quite useful to saying, listen, it's okay to be anxious at times, but right now is not a time to be anxious. If bad things have happened to you in the past that are causing this low mood and depression, it's okay about those. We can talk through those, but you're not experiencing that now. So it's a way of training your brain to say, hey, I'm not there now, I'm here. This is an okay place to be. So, and believe you me, I know I'm making it sound really easy. It's much, much harder in principle, and much more hard in practice, but it can be done slowly but surely. By doing more mindfulness, you can practice this way of being. One last dodgy diagram, and then we're going to get on to an exercise. More recently, I've been drawing this diagram for many years, and I've been trying to get people to remember internal awareness, bodily awareness, and the world awareness. And then I recently read some articles, and I can't remember the names of them. Check the links below. If I can remember them, I'll put them on the links. And it was quite interesting, actually, because there's quite a neat, easy acronym. And please forgive me if this is the wrong kind of thing. BMW. Not the car. Body, mind, world. It's a really easy way of remembering those 3 awareness zones that we're trying to draw attention to. Instead of wandering off, we're trying to pull our awareness back to the body. We're trying to draw our mind back, our awareness back to our minds. And we're trying to draw our attention back to the world that we're in right now. It's so easy for the mind to go into autopilot. And that's what we're trying to get out of. And we're trying to put it back into gear and being more aware. During some of the other mindfulness YouTube videos, I'll be talking you through some more mindfulness theory, but right now I think it'd be useful for us to talk about and me to show you a basic practice. If you're new to these videos, what you're going to realize is in a moment the screen's going to go black and all you'll hear is my voice. During the recording of this, I ask you to either put your phone down, put it onto speaker if you can. If the worst case scenario is you're out and about, then obviously plug your earphones in, but you may lose some of the experience from doing that. So the screen's going to go black. You'll just see the light bulb icon on the screen during this exercise, and that is just to make you aware that it's obviously still playing and don't turn off. Nothing's gone wrong with the camera or the YouTube video. At the end of the YouTube video, I will come back and I'll just conclude some of the things we'll be talking about today. At the end of the practical exercise, if you've got your eyes closed or you're listening to it away from your phone, you'll hear this noise, which is a little bit cheesy, sounds a bit like a typical relaxation kind of sound, but it's just a way of making you aware that the practical exercise is coming to an end or has come to an end, and it's good to come and watch me to conclude this. So this is the sound you'll hear. This is a common theme sound you'll always hear towards the end of any exercise we talk through, and the sound sounds a bit like this. Nice sound, I think. So you'll hear that, and that will mean that that is the end of the practical exercise. Okay, so let's listen to this and see how you find this exercise.
Okay, before we start this, it's good just to let you guys know that obviously it goes without saying, if you are driving a car, motorbike, operating any kind of machinery, please don't try this while you're doing that, because it's only likely to end up in disaster. So I want you to make sure that you're not doing anything important right now, and give yourselves 10 minutes to relax and hopefully practice this mindfulness exercise. So the first thing we do is I'd like you to take a few deep breaths in. And when I say take a few deep breaths in, I want you to breathe in through the nose and out of the mouth. It's quite important to breathe in through the nose because the nose is a natural filter to the air around us. So just take a few deep breaths in. Slow your breathing down. And when you feel in a calm, centered kind of place where you're breathing, I want you to find yourself in a comfortable position. That could be sitting down, that could be laying down, it could be standing up, whatever you find comfortable. Just remember that we're going to be here for around the next 10 minutes of time. So, as I've just described to you, I'd like us to start on that mind part of our awareness cycles. And within that mind, how we focus on that in this exercise is, I'd like you to close your eyes for me, take a few more deep breaths. And when we talk about focusing on the mind, I'd like you just to take a few moments to listen around you and either say out loud or say to yourself quietly sounds that you become aware of around you. It could be a ticking clock, car, people, absolutely anything that you can hear around you. With your eyes still closed, I'd like you to find or hear one sound that seems more dominant than the others. And when you can hear that sound, really concentrate on that sound. Become more and more aware of it as it's happening. It's okay if your mind drifts off. Just find yourself noticing yourself doing that and put it back to that one sound that's happening in the here and now with you. Now I'm going to make it a bit more complicated for you. I want you to try and maintain a focus over that sound as it's happening around you. I'd like us to draw our attention to that second awareness zone, and that is the body. So I want you to become more aware of how you physically feel right now. If you're sat down like myself, you may feel I can feel the weight in my elbows and in my bum where I'm sat down in this chair. wherever you are, I want you to become aware of how you feel. It could be hot, cold, it could be the weight on a certain part of the body. Just allow yourself just to take a few deep breaths in and become more aware of a physical feeling that you're feeling right now. Wherever possible, I'd like you to try and focus on a feeling that you can really feel right now. It could be weight is a good one. If you can feel the weight in a certain part of the body, just maintain that focus on that weighted body part right now. When we do this exercise, it's quite common to have that feeling intensify as you focus on it. That's fine. Just stay with it. If you find your mind wandering off, just be aware of that. Bring it back to that weighted feeling. Remembering to take a few deep breaths. Now, while you're maintaining a focus on that weighted feeling in your body, you're taking a few deep breaths and you're keeping things nice and slow. I want you to link the two things together we've discussed so far. So I want you to link that weighted feeling in whatever part of the body it is. I want you to link that with the sound that you can hear around you right now. I want you to become aware of both of those things in the here and now. Maintain your eyes closed. Keep your breathing regulated. And just allow yourself to focus on the sound and the feeling. Okay, keep your eyes closed for a few more moments. And before you open your eyes, I'd like us to think about where we're going next. We're going to focus on the world around us, that third and final awareness zone. And how we're going to do that in a few moments is I would like to open your eyes, maintain your breathing, don't allow your breathing to speed up. I'd like you to open your eyes slowly but surely now. And as you open them, I want you just to be aware of the colours around you. I'm very much aware of a green light in front of me as I'm doing this recording. I want you to look around you and just notice different colours. I'd like you to shift your attention away from the colours. I'd like you to focus on shapes you can see around you. I can see zigzags in the soundproofing around me at the moment. And I want you to think of, I want you to be aware of any particular shape you can see around you right now. Find one shape or one colour that you can really draw your attention to and focus on for a few seconds. Really become aware of that colour or shape. And as you do, yet again, I'd like you to link that with that physical feeling that you could feel and you can still feel now. Become aware of those two things together. The shape, the colour, and that physical feeling that you're feeling right now. If your mind wanders, bring it back to the shape. Take a deep breath. Bring it back to that physical feeling. And link it to the sound that you could hear when your eyes were closed. Be aware of all those things happening in the here and now. The sound, the physical feeling, and the object. Take a few deep breaths in. Bring your mind back if it starts to wander. And just become aware of all those three things happening right now. So we're coming to the end of that exercise. You might want to find yourself stretch out. Take an even bigger breath. Just relax yourself back into being in the now and back into the pace of life. And I hope that you was able to follow that and that you found it some benefit.
Okay, so hopefully you found that quite useful to listen to, and I'm hoping that you experienced something that felt quite good during that exercise. What I would like you to do is to listen to this as many possible times as you possibly can between now and the next time that you're seeing me. If you're not seeing me or my colleague anymore, listen to it enough times to become familiar with this. I can read this and do this in my mind without reading any script or thinking about it too hard because I've practiced it so many times. I want you to be able to do the same. So between now and the next time I see you or my colleague sees you, I'd like you to practice this as much as possible. One thing that you may find useful is that if you've experienced something during the exercise that you found either distressing, calming, upsetting, or any kind of emotive type of feeling that you may have got from this, keep a journal of those times you've done that, and then hopefully we can discuss that during treatment. I'm looking at things like what you may be thinking, what you may have been thinking. Did you find it easy to do? Did you find it hard to do? Where were you? And perhaps what experience you was aware of during that. This kind of information can be quite useful for yourself and for us, so we can hopefully help guide you into more ways. I'd love you guys to watch all these YouTube videos that are on this website, but I don't want you to, because I want you to take your time, and as we direct you into between our sessions, we will direct you into which videos to watch. There is hopefully going to be some kind of order to these, but if there isn't, then it's best for us to direct you into the way that we want you to listen to these videos and use it in between our sessions. So what else have I got to tell you guys about this? Okay, yeah, so hopefully you guys found that exercise quite useful. The great thing I find with this mindfulness practice, and the technique that I just taught you through then was what I like to call a grounding technique. It's a way of focusing your awareness in the here and now. The great thing about that technique is it should never get boring. If you were to do that in the same place, at the same time every day, at the same room, in the same kind of climate, then it would probably get quite boring quite quickly. And I find things like meditative practice where you're trying to visualize somewhere can become a little bit repetitive, a little bit boring. The great thing about mindfulness practice is as long as you're willing to experiment and try new things, it shouldn't get boring. I could walk down to the park right now, sit there, and close my eyes and be aware of a completely amazing sensation. I could be aware of the warmth, I could be aware of the hot ground underneath my bottom as I'm sitting there. I could be aware of people and bees and flies and everything else flying around me. I could then go back there 3 days later and it could be raining and I could sit there with my brolly up and I could be aware of a completely different experience. I could then go there in winter and sit there and be aware of a completely different experience again. So the great thing is, if you practice this and you're excited to change things, you should hopefully find this won't get boring. Hope you found this video interesting. I hope that you practice this in between our sessions, and hopefully we can pull you back to more videos that you might find quite useful. I'm just checking my computer because it keeps turning itself off and I don't want to interrupt this video. But anyway guys, this has been really useful and hopefully we'll see you our next session together. And if not, you're just using this as a recap, then that's great. Practice, practice, practice.